Okay, so today, guys, what we're going to do is take what we've learned about changing the value of a color and changing the intensity of a color. Reference your color wheel that we did last week, and it works the same for all colors. The opposite of a color, like orange to blue or purple to yellow, you can change the intensity of all the colors the same way. You just add its complement in little tiny portions. And then to change the value of a color, you simply just add black or white to it to make it lighter or darker. The white would be called a tint, T-I-N-T, and the black would be called a shade. If you haven't and you want to do this, you can go ahead and make your secondary colors from your primary colors. So my red and my blue make this beautiful violet or purple. It's the same thing. When you mix, if this looks too red, pull up some more blue. If it looks too blue, pull up some red. And then I just kind of round out my paintbrush and get off the excess. You are welcome to use your newspaper that's on your table to dry off a brush, or have a paper towel ready and do that. I'm going to go ahead and pull from the edge of my paint this blue and pull my yellow. I'm going to make this beautiful green color here. And then my last secondary color I need to make is going to be orange. You see how I'm pulling from the edges of my paint, so I'm not contaminating the whole entire puddle of paint, just on the edges. These can last you for a really long time if you use your paints that way. It doesn't take much of another color to change the yellow, so you'll need a lot more yellow than you will of that other color. So now I basically have my color wheel with my primary colors and my secondary colors, and I am ready. What we're going to do is create a landscape. And a landscape is something where you have a horizon line where the earth meets the sky, and then on that landscape you are going to use your perspective devices that we learned about in chapter 5. So if I want to make something look closer to me, I put it lower on the page. I can make the color brighter. I can make something bigger or smaller on the page. I can use converging lines. All those things that you need to reference from chapter 5. What I'm doing now, and it seems kind of counterproductive, but I'm going to paint my entire paper with just water. I am creating what's called a wash. When you are painting, you want to work from the background to the foreground. So what this does for you is you're going to create a sky. We're going to create some ground. And this is going to allow your paint to just flow on your paper. And then we add things to the top of that. We overlap. That's another perspective device. So I'm going to just kind of dip into my blue. I want to change the value of that blue. I want to make it a little bit lighter. So I'm going to dip onto my palette here. And I'll do that. And then it's going to be pretty light when I put it on my paper because of the water. It's the solvent for it. And then I'm going to move it around like this. If it's too dark, I'm going to dip some more water. And I'm going to move that paint around like this. I can pick up more paint if I want to. I can pick up more water if I want to. But this, you're just painting in this pretty background. And you can use your white to tint it and make it lighter. I like to make mine not so uniform. I like to have some darker areas and some lighter areas. And then I'm working pretty quickly, aren't I? It's going to dry pretty fast. Then I'm going to make my color down here for my land. Depends on what color land you want. If you want it to be springtime, you probably use greens and blues and yellows, mixed in. Or if I want it to look more wintry, I would probably keep going with my blue and my white. That just depends on what you want to do. I'm going to do mine kind of an autumny kind of landscape. So I'm going to change this orange. I want to make it not so bright. So I need to add just a little bit of this blue to change the intensity. And I'm going to mix that in. And I have this lovely brown. And I'm going to use that for my ground. And I'm just going to place that in here. This reminds me of my trips to maybe New Mexico or Arizona. Okay, it doesn't have to be straight across. You can make some areas up higher and lower. Cool. If it's wet, it's going to kind of bleed into the other wet area. If you don't mind that, that will be fine. Okay, I'm gonna add just a little more yellow to that and blend that in. And I have a nice little place to start building my landscape. And when you get to this point, if you want, I have the heat gun that you can use and dry it really quickly so that you can move along a little bit faster. Alright? So now I have my background, I have my foreground, I have a horizon line. If I want to add a road in here, I'm going to use this beautiful brown that I already made, and I add just a little bit of black to it. I'm going to change the value of that brown, and I'm going to place a little road. I'm going to let the lines converge here to this vanishing point that we've talked about. Not dark enough, add some more black. Those converging lines to that vanishing point, the point at which things look as if they're going to disappear. We know they don't really, but... And make it stop when you get to that horizon line. Don't keep going up into the sky, or you'll have what we call the highway to heaven. You don't want to do that. So I have this beautiful little road. I'm going to make it a little bit darker here on the edges. Make it look kind of like it has a little rut in there. Okay. When, if I want to put grass or trees or whatever I'm going to do in here, I would probably want to put some of that in now. And I'm using just the side of my brush. I'm going to start back here. I'm going to make these little things like shorter back here in the background. And then they get longer as they get up here to the foreground. And they're really long. The bottom of my page is closest to me. We looked at that when we did the critiquing the artwork, when we did Ando Hiroshi, and we looked at his block print, and as things got closer to you, he drew them bigger. Okay, I like to use lots of. I like to dip into my color and get lots of different shades of greens or whatever we're doing. Okay. Now, if I want to add trees to my landscape, I kind of have a Mod Podge of colors here, but it'll be okay for our demonstration. I'm going to make a pretty brown out of, I'm going to use my purple here and my yellow. I'm going to mix it together. Have this beautiful, dark, rich brown. If it is too dark for me, I can add some more yellow, or I can add some more white. And I get this really cool gray color. Nice. Our video told the other day that gray is like, has all the colors in it. Okay. And then I'm going to do a little tree back here. Switch your brushes out. This one is wider for my landscape and all that. It worked a little better. But then if I want to make branches and things for my tree, I would probably switch my brushes. And then this one's a little bit rough. I'm going to switch to this one. And I'm going to start putting the trees in, fill them in. I'm going to add a little more yellow. I like to mix a lot of colors. If you do one and you're like, oh, Miss Claus, I want to start over, I think I got this, cool, do that. Okay, I'm just putting in, I'm going to make another kind of brown. I'm going to go here with my red. I'm going to pull up some of that green I've already made, mix it together. If it's too red, add more green. Oh, pretty. Okay. I'm going to add, I'm going to add a little white to that. And that gives me a whole nother kind of color for my tree. I'm going to drop this one a little bit lower down here onto my landscape. I can make them go off the page. Great. But I'm going to work from the background to the foreground. If it gets too dry, add some more water. Okay. The cool thing about browns is you can just mix just about anything and get a really cool brown color. Okay, I'm going to put one down here really close to the bottom, and look what's going to happen. I'm overlapping that grass, it's fine. And then I'm going to overlap that tree I did in the background. I'm going to let that go right over the top of that. Okay. This is by no stretch of the imagination a masterpiece. But that's how you start to build a landscape, guys. If I want to put leaves on it, or a tree, I don't paint every individual little leaf on there. I'm just going to mix this pretty green over here, like this. I'm not going to over blend it. And then I'm going to, is overlapping my road. I'm going to pick up some more yellow, and I'm just using my, and I'm just kind of, this is all technique. And then I can build in my leaves over the tops of my branches. So this is how Mr. Bob Ross does it. The ones that you guys like to watch on Netflix. He's a technique painter. He does not draw or paint every individual little thing. He developed all these really cool techniques that he can use to create these beautiful landscapes. I completely covered up my tree in the background, but it's okay. I like to add a little bit of blue to my green. Oh yeah, that puts some shadows in there. Oh, looking pretty nice. And do it in clumps if you're going to do that. You do not have to do this kind of landscape. You can do whatever kind of landscape you want, but I do want to see varying degrees of value, some intensity changes, evidence that you're using some of your perspective devices that we talked about before. You can put little animals in here if you want to do that. That is completely up to you. Okay. Of course, I've got to do it. I've got to add my little birds up here. If he's closer to me, he's going to be bigger. If he's farther away, he's going to be smaller. Oh, pretty. Okay. And that's how you create a landscape. I'd like to see 5 or 6 different value changes and intensity changes. You can add some little characters in here if you'd like to. You can put some little stuff up here in the trees. But that's what we will be doing today and tomorrow. Okay? Happy painting!